So look, obviously 3-3 is a terrific start for the Atlanta Falcons, considering there's a lot of people that thought the day would be a 2-win team this year. We talked about on this show. I thought they'd be 6. They may very well end up blowing past that number. I thought they'd be a 6-win team this year. Vegas had their odds at like 4.5 is what the over/under win total is. They're obviously going to beat all of that. Now, when you look at what their identity is offensively, you ask the question about in a league that is full of passing, can the Falcons sustain this? Let me give you a few numbers as to where the Falcons are at. Okay. I just want to give you some numbers here to kind of ponder. In the last 3 weeks, okay, where the Falcons are 2-1, Mariota's had 14 attempts, 25 attempts, 19 attempts. The 2 games that they won was the 14 and 19 attempts. They lost the 25 attempts game. This is where the NFL is in today's world, okay? Obviously, we still have a game tonight, but the teams that won yesterday, the average number of attempts for a quarterback in games that were won yesterday was 32.1. Falcons threw it 14 times. The previous week, where Mariota threw it 25 times and they lost, the average NFL team that won threw it 29.7 times. A few weeks ago, when the Falcons won and Mariota threw it 19 times in the game, the average winning team quarterback threw it 30.9 times per game. So if you want to look, the average NFL team has thrown 194.7 passes in the league. The Falcons have thrown 137. Give you more perspective on it. Most teams in the rest of the league, without obviously tonight's game and all this and the other, and when you include buys and everything else, the average NFL team is throwing it 33.5 times per game. The Falcons are averaging 22.8 times per game. They're basically throwing it 30% less than the average quarterback. And that's important because that factors in everybody. That factors in Matt Ryan and Tom Brady throwing it 55 times and Zach Wilson throwing it 18 or 20 times, or Jalen Hurts throwing it 20, 25 times. Factors everybody else in the league. So the Falcons are throwing it 30% less. They're averaging 30% less pass attempts than what every and other NFL team is doing right now. The Falcons are third in the NFL in total pass attempts, and that's only because the Titans had a bye week. Titans are only 7 less attempts than the Falcons, but they had a bye week. They'll catch back up. So the Falcons are going to stay somewhere around the second fewest attempts. Mariota is on pace to have one of his lowest pass attempt seasons at 338. Now, that's fine. Look, can the Falcons maintain this type of balance and play and continue to win? I will tell you yes, that they can. Look, the Falcons are a top 3 rushing team. They're also a top 3 rushing attempt team. And their motto is, we're going to control the line of scrimmage on the offensive side and do that on the defensive side. And that's the thing. This is what we've begged the Atlanta Falcons to be. Tell me that we have good line of scrimmage play. The ultimate way to even things out in the NFL when you talk about having a shot to win games is tell me you can be good on your lines of scrimmage. I've always said my philosophy about football, when the referee plants the football down for the spot on that play, the closer to the football my great players are, the better I will be. The further I get away from where the football is spotted, where my great players are, the more I'm going to struggle. And that's been the Falcons' problem over the last handful of years, going back to previous administrations and regimes, is they haven't been good at the point of the football, at the point of attack. And with the way that this offensive line is played, look, Pro Football Focus has Chris Lindstrom as their first team NFL guard right now. McGarry's played well. The offensive line in general has played well. Dahlman, but again, he's, what do we say? You can have a bad offensive lineman, okay? You can have one guy who's bad. Problem is last year you had multiples of guys who were not good. That you can't survive. The defensive line, we've talked about Grady having one of his best seasons ever. Taquan Graham having a really good season. we'll talk about sacks coming up here in just a minute, but they got off to a really good start, right? So if you can control the line of scrimmage on both sides of the football and run the football effectively, right? You don't have to be the best running team. You don't have to be top tier. It certainly helps. But if you can line up and keep staying ahead of the chains, if you can create down and distance where your offense picks up yards and puts you into short third yardage situations, or your defensive line can sack the other team's quarterback and create long down and distance for them, then you can be in every game that they play. I don't care what the talent is. The Falcons are not going to line up against teams this year, maybe Carolina, where they're going to have, where you're going to say the Falcons are more talented than that team. They're not going to line up next week in Cincinnati and people are going to say, well, the Falcons are a more talented team. Nope, that's the team that was in the Super Bowl, not with Burrow and Chase and all those guys and Hendrickson. Individually, we don't have players that compare to what those guys are with Boyd and Higgins and this and that and bop, 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 right? But the Falcons and what their identity is and how they win games is they control the line of scrimmage. They play really well at the point of attack. They run the football effectively, and they stay committed to it. And they're avoiding putting the ball in harm's way. Again, it's not coincidence that when they throw it 20 or less times, they've won every one of those games. When they start throwing it more, when it gets up into 25, 33 like it did, they don't win those games. And they won't. If they get into those kinds of scenarios, they won't. We've talked about sweet spot, staying in that 20. I'm telling you right now, that 20 pass number is the sweet spot for where we need to be. And this team is going to find itself that if they continue to play really well on the line of scrimmage, they can control the offensive line, control the defensive line, run the football effectively, stay committed to it. You know, that's the thing about yesterday is the 40 rushing attempts. Everybody knows they had the best run defense in the NFL. Didn't matter. 40 runs. You stay committed to it. That's how you have success. That's what is so different about this coaching staff is the commitment to what their philosophy is. Not getting panicked, not worrying about what the other team does or what have you. You stay committed to what you do best. And the results will show. And this team continues to do that. And that's why they're finding themselves in one-score games, not getting blown out, having an opportunity to win. It's not because they huck it, they do this, they do that, whatever like that. They play good enough defense and create some. Look, the Falcons are not an elite defensive team. Go look at their yardage and things like that. They're not an elite defensive team. But they control the line of scrimmage. They did a great job yesterday stopping the run. Their offensive line has been terrific. And if you can do that in this league, you can sustain success. You can be in every game and continue to have a chance to win every week. You don't turn the football over. You create some turnovers. This formula very much has long-term success written all over it. I want to mention, too, thanks for making Locked On Sports Atlanta your first listen every day. Make sure you check out our NFL key predictions every Friday on our Locked On NFL channel. Locked On's local experts give you the inside scoop on the 5 biggest games of the NFL weekend, including you're going to get Sunday and Monday Night Football, plus betting advice from the field's leading experts, BetOnline. Follow NFL key predictions every Friday on Locked On NFL. It's available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts from.